It's a privilege now, having heard them, to speak very briefly afterwards, and first of all to express my thanks to Mrs. Kwan and all those who have organised this impressive and moving conference. Underneath it all, our objectives are clear: to stop the violations and to bring the offenders to justice. Already that is two objectives. We know it is much harder for people to channel their energies into anything except a single clear objective. And one of the things I suspect I sense from today's conference is that people, particularly perhaps some of the young people, don't quite know how best to channel their energies hereafter. I'll come to that very briefly, but I have one thing to say about what's been observed about the ICC. Yes, of course, we should do everything we can to have this case referred to the ICC, imperfect court though it may be. It is part of the world structure. If you have a policeman and an investigative process there and you see a crime committed, you don't say, I don't think it'll work. You say, I will refer this crime to that authority. That's what we must try and have done. And if it fails, there must be other things that we can do. But remember, getting the case referred to the ICC could then become a single topic enterprise in which we could all be caught up and to which we could all give our enthusiasm. The other recommendations that you've all heard, some of them repeated, seem to me all absolutely valuable, some of them critical. Fact-finding, documentation centres in particular, utterly important. But what's really important may be to recognise that in problems like this, solution ultimately comes when it percolates up from within. How do you get the energy into the country in order that its solution may come from there? I'm going to mention three people in one sentence each, and then I will close. The three people are rather different. One is the senior editor of the senior, serious, long television programme put out by the BBC in England. Last week, he did not know about the camps of North Korea. He does now. All of us can find everybody we know and make sure they know how bad this situation is. The second person is Angelina Jolie. She doesn't have anything to do with North Korea, but you will have detected, if you read your newspapers, how an iconic figure can raise the profile of an entirely worthy cause. We can't have Angelina Jolie, but we must recognize that we need to use every modern technique to get this tragedy into the minds of everyone. And if it has to be by way of a film star, let it be. The third person is a man called David Alton, Lord Alton, whom you won't know, probably. He's a British parliamentarian. He's been to North Korea 4 times in the last 8 years, once with Ben. He goes there, he talks to them about human rights violations. They allow him to do so, and they have visited him in London. Remember, visits are possible. And the one thing that you can do, as well as getting information in by electronic or other means into the country, is if there's any possibility of visiting, visit. And remember that in criminal cases and in political change, things have a snowball effect. You don't expect the little bits of snow to gather up and to form a snowball, but they do. Those of us who are already engaged in NGOs with a specific purpose know what we have to do next. Those of you who want to do something but don't know have got to think what it is you can do, either individually or through an organization to make your contribution, just as I will be thinking again myself. And how is it going to be easy for us to have those thoughts? Let me tell you why. It's warm in here, isn't it? Not so very far away, it probably isn't very warm, unless you're deep in the bowels of a mine where you are working as a slave in circumstances that are so dangerous you're quite likely to be killed. In the 4 hours that this conference has gone on, to remind you of what the last speaker but one said, tens of thousands, is it 100,000 people, will have spent 4 more years in unlawful detention, in the cold, and with hunger. In those 4 hours, there will be women who have been raped. Maybe there will be those who have been forced to undergo abortions when they had no desire so to do. There will be people who have tried to leave in those 4 hours, maybe, and who haven't been able to do so. And 4 hours is but a sixth of the day. And when you're detained forever or for a long time, even one day is a long time. That's what we have to think about. And that's how we will drive ourselves to make our individual contributions. Thank you.
예, 감사합니다. 그럼 이것으로서 2013 북한인권 국제회의를 모두 마치도록 하겠습니다. 발표 토론